Today we got a story of this kid who thinks that he's a wizard and tries to put spells on the subscriber, bro. It's pretty funny, so sit back, relax, subscribe if you like stories, and let's call today's subscriber who sent in the story, let's call him Jacob. So Jacob's in middle school, I don't know exactly what grade, but there's this kid in his class that was always kind of known as like the strange kid, and he was kind of known as the strange kid because he was known as the kid who ran in like last year ran into the girls' bathroom and said, "Hi ladies, how's it going?" and then obviously got escorted out by the security guard, sent to the principal's office where they were like, "Bro, what are you even doing? Like, that's super weird, yada yada." And from that day forward, he was kind of just known as the weird kid. So fast forward a year later, and this happened at PE. So Jacob still had PE class, aka physical education, for any of you guys who don't call it PE. And today, what they kind of did was they mixed it up every single day. They play a different sport or some different activity that was kind of like physical exercise or whatever, right? And today was dodgeball. And so basically, the class was split in two, and half the kids went on one side, one of the teams, and the other half of the kids went on the other team, and Jacob just happened to be on the weird kid's team. And we're no longer going to call him the weird kid, we're going to call him the wizard kid, as you will see quite soon why he's called the wizard kid. So anyways, right, they're playing dodgeball, and Jacob and the wizard kid are on the same team, and it's pretty close. Like, it was divided up randomly, however, it just happened to be like a super even, like, division. So anyways, right, Jacob's team, which is also the wizard kid's team, was starting to, like, fall behind a little bit. It was, like, I don't know, 5-4, and there was a lot of pressure being put on the team. And if you don't know, in dodgeball, at least the rules that they played by, you were allowed to deflect dodgeballs with your own dodgeball, and you wouldn't get in trouble. But if a stray dodgeball hit you in any part of your body before rolling on the ground, you were basically it, or you were tagged out. So anyways, this all went down when Jacob and, the wizard kid and the other two people on his team were kind of like prepping and preparing for the other team to start throwing dodgeballs at them. And one of the team members on the other side threw a dodgeball really hard at Jacob, but Jacob was pretty good at deflecting the dodgeballs with his ball, so he kind of like outstretches his hand and he deflects the dodgeball. And you would be probably thinking, oh, this is a good thing, right? But no, because the dodgeball, yes, the one coming at Jacob, deflects off of Jacob's dodgeball, so Jacob is not it. However, the dodgeball deflects off of Jacob's dodgeball and hits the wizard kid. And unfortunately, by the rules that they played by, that was considered a point for the other team. So the wizard kid basically got tapped out. And Jacob felt really bad because, one, that's harming his own chances for his own team. But also, he's like, dang, I just got my own teammate out. So he looks at the wizard kid. He's like, bro, that was an accident, my fault. The wizard kid doesn't really respond, but Jacob just assumes that he was busy walking to the, where all the other team members were that were tagged out. But anyways, right, Jacob and the three remaining teammates actually end up winning. It's super close, and it's like Jacob has a 1v2 at the very end. But Jacob's probably one of the most skilled dodgeball players there. Will those skills transfer to other places in his life? Who knows, man. But at the end of the day, he was pretty good at dodgeball. So, his whole team rejoices except the wizard kid, who is apparently still pretty mad. Jacob doesn't blame him, like the wizard kid wanted his glory too. The wizard kid was pretty good at dodgeball too, so maybe he would have been the one to do the miraculous 1v2. Who knows, man? But anyways, right, so PE is over and they're walking back to class. And Jacob is kind of walking by himself for a second, and the wizard kid runs up behind him and taps him on the shoulder, and Jacob turns around. And the wizard kid looks at him and says, bro, you just messed with a wizard. That was the worst decision of your life. Jacob at first is like, bro, what? Because he knew that this kid was weird, but he didn't know that this kid was like pretended to be a wizard and put spells on people, right? So he was like, bro, I'm sorry, it was like a mistake. Why would I want to get my own teammate out? And the wizard kid's like, because you wanted all the glory, right? You wanted all the glory for yourself, and you got it. And you will pay the price. You just didn't know that you were messing with an actual wizard. And once again, Jacob kind of just assumed that he misspoke the first time when he said, oh, I'm a wizard, bro. But then when the weird kid, aka the wizard kid, said it again, Jacob started to realize that no, this kid was not joking. He actually thought that he was a wizard. So Jacob's like, man, seriously, I didn't mean to do it. I wanted my team to win. I didn't like care if I was to get out for my team to win, I would have done it. Like, I seriously don't care. And Jacob wasn't even lying. Sure, the glory of being the one who came back for a 1v2 to win for the team. Yeah, he's not gonna lie. It was pretty sweet. However, still wasn't worth, it still wasn't worth, it wouldn't be worth like losing, right? The glory, he would much rather win than like have the glory like taken away. But anyways, right, the next day rolls around, and this is when Jacob starts to understand why the wizard kid calls himself the wizard kid, because he's sitting in class, and Jacob was kind of sitting towards the back of the class, and he happened to have a seat next to him open. And sure enough, right, he had one class with the weird wizard kid, right? And the wizard kid normally sat at the very, very, very front of the classroom, right? But this time, he walked all the way back and sat right next to Jacob. So Jacob right away kind of realized that this was not a coincidence. And the wizard kid is like, hey, do you want to see something? And Jacob's like, bro, what? Like, school, like, class is starting. Because the teacher had already started to, like, be like, all right, class, turn a page, whatever. And Jacob's like, bro, we got to pay attention. Like, sure, maybe after class, but not now. And the wizard kid's like, all right, too bad then. And Jacob's like, okay. So Jacob takes out his textbook and is starting to open to the page that he's supposed to be. And then, sure enough, right, the wizard kid says, hey, Jacob, turn. Like, look at me. And Jacob's like, dude, what? And he's turning, as he turns his face, the wizard kid blows a pile of glitter into his face. And Jacob starts coughing. He's like, bro, what did you do that for? And then the wizard kid starts going, oobily doobily, oobily doobily, just like some real nonsense, pretending it's like wizard speak or whatever. And he's like, you just got a curse put on you. And sure enough, right, the teacher looks over, and I think the teacher was just having a bad day, because the teacher's like, you two, go to the principal's office. You're being a distraction. And I mean, Jacob is kind of looking at the teacher like, I was just here, I was just sitting here, and the teacher's like, did you not hear me? Both of you go to the principal's office. Kind of just because I think the teacher was having a bad day and just assumed that they were both being distracting and disrespectful and not paying attention. And the wizard kid is like, look, the curse is already working. And Jacob turns to the wizard kid and is like, bro, if the curse is working, why are you sent to the principal's office as well? And the wizard kid really didn't have a reply besides, the curse is working, bro. I'm sorry that you're so mad and can't accept it. Real quick, comment wizard down below if you want to heart in your comment. I'm going to be out most of the day, so I don't know how many comments I'll be able to heart, so please don't take it personally if you don't get a heart. But I will be looking for comments that say wizard to go ahead and heart them. And also, if you want to support the channel in the best way you possibly can, binge watch some videos either via playlists or in the recommended. And if you're doing so, please comment that you're doing so like these people so that I can heart your comment, reply and say thank you, and let me know what you're doing when you're binge watching the videos. It's always cool to know. Anyways, back to the story. So anyways, Jacob and the wizard kid are walking down the halls to the principal's office, and Jacob is just like, bro, like, I'm not trying to, like, mess with any of this. Like, I'm just trying to learn in class. I'm trying to, like, get my hours in. Why are you doing all this to me? And the wizard kid is like, because you decided to disrespect me in Dodgeball. And I told you you'd suffer the consequences. It looks like one of my spells is working. Maybe if you're nice enough to me, I will issue a counter spell. And Jacob does not believe it. And it's like, bro, you're obviously not a wizard. Like, a counter spell would do as much good as, like, an actual spell. And the wizard kid gets really butthurt at this. And it's like, I am a wizard. Can you not tell that, like, the curse I put on you sent us both to the principal's office? And Jacob goes on to say, as they're walking to the principal's office, bro, I don't believe it actually worked, because if the curse was actually effective, it would just be me going to the principal's office, not both of us. Sure enough, they eventually get to the principal's office, and the principal is kind of just like, all right, guys, I got a note from your teacher, or an email, I guess not a note, that you were, like, being distracting in class and distracting others and distracting yourself. Like, can you just tell me what was going on? And the wizard kid is like, I put a spell on him. And the principal's like, okay. And then turns to Jacob, like, why are you here? And Jacob's like, I don't know why I'm here. Like, I was just sitting here, and this kid decides to, like, quote unquote, put a spell on me, which basically just means blows, like, I don't know, not fairy dust, but, like, sparkles and stuff into my face and then say a bunch of nonsense. And then for some reason, I got in trouble too. And when, like, Jacob said for some reason, the wizard kid turns and says, not for some reason, because of the curse. And Jacob's like, you're not a wizard, bro. Like, there's no curse. And the principal's like, guys, I don't know what's going on. I think it's just like both you guys just go to detention later today and we'll be done with this. And Jacob's like, "What?" And the wizard kid is like, "Heh heh heh. The curse continues to work." And Jacob once again says, "I will reiterate this, but if it was actually a curse, why are you receiving the same punishment as me?" And the wizard kid is like, "You're just mad because you're realizing the curse is real." And Jacob's just so mad at this point. He's like, "Bro, this is so stupid." So sure enough, Jacob and, the wizard kid, they go back to class, and, Jacob he's just not paying attention because he's just so mad that he has to go in and, he has to go to detention later that day. He's not trying to do that. And sure enough, time eventually comes around, and it's time for them to go to detention. And Jacob and the wizard kid, they get up and, they walk over and they go into detention, and there's like a few other kids there or whatever. And sure enough, right, Jacob sits on the back, and the wizard kid sits right next to him, and Jacob's like, "Bro, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to sit next to you. Can you please just leave me alone?" And the wizard kid's like, "Well, if you don't believe in my spells, I'm going to keep putting spells on you till you believe it." And Jacob's like, "Fine, put as many spells as you want on me. Like, trust me. Anything that's happened today is just bad luck on my part. And the fact that you're getting the punishment too kind of proves to me that these spells aren't real." So the wizard kid's like, "Fine, well, I'm going to, how we're getting." So basically, they had a pretty big test that they were getting back. They did it about a week ago, but they were receiving their grades back the next day. So the wizard kid's like, "Fine, well, I'm going to put a spell on you. And because of the spell, you're going to fail the major test we're getting back." And Jacob's like, "Well, I know I did pretty well on it because I knew the answers to basically every question, and the teacher's already graded them, so it's not like the grade will be changed. So sure, let's, put a spell on it, right?" And Jacob's like, "Well, how about you also put a spell on your test to make you do well, so that I'll fail and you get an A. And if that actually happens, both of those things happening, right, I'll believe that you're a wizard. I'll bow down, I'll accept your glory as a ruler or whatever, right?" The wizard kid's like, "Fine, like, fair enough." And the wizard kid, like, takes out a little stick and starts waving it around as like, "Biddly boodly, goodly billy." It just says something like nonsense or whatever. And so at this point, Jacob was like, "All right, well, this is going to prove to this kid that, like, his wizard powers are fake because I know for certain that, I did well." However, Jacob is starting to feel like, wait, because remember, dude's in middle school, don't make fun of him, but he's like, wait, what if this kid actually does have wizard powers? What if this kid can actually put a spell on me, right? And he's like, no, that's ridiculous, Jacob, come on now. But Jacob's like, wait, did I just give myself an F? But then he realizes, wait, no, like, come on now, like, okay, obviously, I did well on this test. And the kid's gonna realize tomorrow that he's a fraud. Sure enough, eventually, detention or, I don't know, whatever they were in, it ends, and the next day rolls around, and they go back to the class where they both had a major assessment being passed back. And this time, right, Jacob makes sure that the wizard kid sits right next to him. He's like, "All right, well, we're gonna see if your spell actually works." And the wizard kid is like super, I don't know, he's like super full of himself. He's like, "I don't know why you'd want to fail an assignment you work so hard on, like, just because, like, you wanted to testify as actually a wizard, like, that's so ridiculous. You just played yourself, bro," stuff like that. But sure enough, right, the teacher eventually goes around and starts handing back the tests. And the first test that was handed out was Jacob's. And Jacob got an A on the assessment. So he takes the paper, flips it around, and shows it to the wizard kid. He's like, "Oh, looks like your spell didn't work." And he's like, and Jacob's like, "All right, just admit it, checkmate, I got you." And he's like, "Well, the problem is actually that, I just didn't do the spell properly." And Jacob's like, "All right, well, did you do the spell properly for your test?" And the wizard kid's like, "Oh, yes, 100%. I'm getting an A on this." And to be fair, Jacob was definitely kind of like, he was kind of being a little risky here because the wizard kid maybe was also like really smart or cheated or something. But for some reason, maybe the wizard kid actually did get an A. But Jacob was kind of like assuming that the kid was going to be too busy doing spells to actually study. So sure enough, the teacher hands back the wizard kid's paper, and you could already tell that the kid did not do well because the teacher handed back every single test face up except for the wizard kid's test handed that one face down. And yeah, sure enough, the wizard kid flips over the paper and Jacob is watching, and there's a big F in a red circle. And the wizard kid, after seeing the F, quickly flips over his paper again and is like, huh, look at that. I actually got an A. Looks like my spells are right. And Jacob's like, bro, I saw the F. Like, I know you failed this. You're probably too busy doing the spells to actually study. The wizard kid's like, no, bro, I got an A. And, like, I think Jacob did this quick enough that the wizard kid was just not able to react. Because sure enough, right, Jacob reaches over and quickly flips over the wizard kid's paper. And there's a big, massive F and a circle on it, being like, oh, so you got an A now? The wizard kid's like, that's just a typo. You can ask the teacher. And the wizard kid kind of just said that because, like, obviously Jacob's not allowed to say, hey, what did this random classmate get on this major assignment? Like, the teacher's going to be like, mind your own beeswax, bro. Like, obviously. So Jacob's like, all right, wizard kid, you proved to me that you are not a wizard. He's like, no, I'm going to keep putting spells on you till, like, you realize. And, yeah, so for the rest of the week, the wizard kid would come in and blow, like, bubbles on him or, like, I don't know, fairy dust or all this kind of stuff and like say a bunch of random stuff. But yeah, Jacob did not have any other negative side effects that happened that week. And the wizard kid eventually realized that, yeah, he was not a wizard and that he was not able to convince Jacob that he was a wizard. So eventually the dude stopped and yeah,